for coming, everyone. Today I wanted to touch on a key piece of sustainability and just process improvement in general. And that's around how do you get your employees and the people you work with to kind of take ownership of a lot of these things versus somebody coming in and helping them improve and then lead. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about today on the event format that we use at Rockwell to do that. And I think a lot of it will be more applicable to lots of other things besides just energy reduction. So before I start, do all of you work at a company today? Or anyone? Consulting? Okay. Anybody still in school or? No? Okay. All right. So we kind of be set up for a discussion around corporate world, and you have employees, and you're coming in trying to get some more momentum in that area. So if you have questions, feel free. We have small groups, so feel free to stop me and ask. So is this what your company looks like? Either when any of these pictures when you leave, or if you came back to work during the night shift, or I've seen a lot of this, at least at Rockwell, just walking through. You see a lot of lights left on, a lot of things on and running. It looks like there's people going to be coming in any minute now to go work or meet in a conference room. So there's quite a bit of opportunity just by walking around at different times to notice that things we're not really doing a very good job of being efficient about the use of electricity and other things. So we'll expand on that a little bit here. So let me touch on Rockwell Collins real quick and then talk about some different, some background around energy, waste. We'll talk about this event format that we put together and how that, some of the forms we're using, as well as how it compares to a traditional energy audit, and then try to summarize that up. But the objective today is to give you some ideas on how to conduct a lean event to engage and empower your employees to be able to look for that energy waste in their area. Any other ideas about what you were hoping to get out of today's session? If not, then maybe at the end I'm going to leave some time to ask it at that time. So we try to condense it down to just some key points here. Rockwell Collins is a global company. We have 60 locations in 27 different countries. Some of them are small locations that support a lot of aircraft and airports. We have about 19,000 employees, give or take, certain years. And then it mainly provides navigation, communication, and displays, products, and services for military and commercial customers. So radios from the first moon landings to pretty fancy displays in cockpits, to simulators, GPS, handheld GPS for military use, and things like that. Pretty neat stuff. About 1998, we started a lean electronics, which was our process improvement methodology. It was very heavy on our lean tools, your value stream mapping, your 5S, looking for the 7 forms of waste. And then probably about 2007, we started to bring in our Six Sigma techniques, looking at variation reduction and more data analysis tools. But lean is really just our umbrella for process improvement. And so other techniques around change management or theory of constraints or anything like that, they have those kind of embedded underneath our program. So the more traditional way we've gone after improvements is to set up an event where we get everybody together at the same time. We talk about your basic structure of current state, ideal state, future state. And you're working through whatever data you've got. Hopefully you have the right people in the event. And you're trying to share and really learn from people. So it's not only, it does provide just an educational opportunity for people. Even if you don't get anything accomplished, there's a lot of learning that goes on about, oh, I didn't know we had this department. And I have a person I can contact if something comes up in the future. And that's some of the networking and collaboration that takes place in events. But the big objective is to achieve some kind of dramatic improvement in a short amount of time. That would have taken you months or maybe years to do through hour meetings or discussions. So we wanted to take our existing lean program and that structure and try to apply that to energy waste. So what do we mean by energy waste? Well, some of the things we use energy for is what we call value added, like to place parts on a board, or hopefully to clean up the product to make it look good for our customers. Maybe to create a bid proposal for the computer processing, the electricity needed there, or to keep our employees comfortable in the work environment so that they can be productive. So we're not going after this type of stuff. What we're really focusing on is to find the lighting left on in the area. Especially if it's having to do rework on something that didn't go well. Or maybe it's the air conditioner that has to be replaced because we didn't maintain it properly. We neglected it. So it replaced a lot sooner than we should have. Or it's a test equipment being left on because, well, we're not sure if it's going to come back on again tomorrow, so better leave it on just in case. Well, those are opportunities we want to see and identify and say, is that really true or not? We do something about that. Or projectors left on in the conference room. Those are the types of energy waste that we're going after and looking for. And just like in lean, the customer does not want to pay for these types of waste. That's added on. Somehow that's going to get rolled up into the customer's cost, and they don't want to pay for that. So Rockwell looked at about 2009, really tried to put a whole package around our carbon footprint. And once they had a pretty good baseline, they came up with a goal of 15% reduction by 2014. And as you can see in the pie chart, electricity is our big opportunity. That's in the blue. So that made up 80-some%, maybe almost 90, I think it was like 85% of our total footprint. And the Environment Safety Health Group was looking for a way to, how do we do more of a bottoms-up approach to energy reduction? Because the facilities group was kind of doing some more top-down approach from that perspective. So a good mix is to have both initiatives going in both directions. How do we get the employees engaged? And then on the way down, how do we get the company metrics and structure to help drive that as well? And somewhere in the middle is kind of where those issues come together, and that's where we want to focus. But
were you looking at any of the tonnage, anything that you're throwing away, stuff like that? I didn't see that in one of your.
Not for the carbon footprint piece. So this is really kind of around the energy waste part. We haven't gotten into like waste audits very much or stuff like that, but that's next on the list actually. So they were looking for a way. How do we get from that bottoms-up approach? How do we get the employees engaged? Because they could have people going around and checking and telling people, hey, you're leaving your lights on, and have almost like a police function, but that's not going to be sustainable. That's not going to last. So conservation is obviously the key, especially at the employee level. That's what they can control, is to be very conscientious about their energy usage. And it doesn't require capital investment, which is always a hindrance. People say, well, we should do this, but no one's going to spend the money for that. So it's more about on the behavior side. What can they do from the behavior standpoint to drive energy reduction? And this is obviously a big payback area as well. Conserving energy can be almost like 3 times the benefit because it's very wasteful. If you're just to dig up coal from the ground, by the time it actually got into producing energy, it's like 1/3 of that actually gets there. The other 2/3 of it is wasted along that whole process. So when you can stop the need for any energy in the first place, that's your biggest bang right there. And so this behavior really involves all employees to be integrated into it and understand what the impact is and why. So we came up with this term, the Energy Go in City. And we took this based on some information from Energy Star, I think, had some stuff around an energy treasure hunt. Seen some stuff around Energy Kaizen events. It's the same idea as that you're going out to the area where the energy is being used and you're observing with the people who work in that area and you're trying to identify opportunities. And that's kind of this Gemba, or go and see approach. It's not to sit in a conference room or just sit at your computer and try to come up with solutions. It's physically going out there and seeing what's really going on. And so the idea around the event was to walk through a work area at different times of day and see how the energy is being utilized. And the outcomes are identify opportunities related to energy that can put together as an action plan. Some of it is to collect data and measure so we can understand, well, how big a problem is this? How much of an impact does this have? And a lot of times the answer is we have no idea. So part of the effort is to say, let's meter up this as part of the action plan to find out how much of the energy is being wasted on this equipment, or if this is running all the time like we think it is. But the big key is really to engage employees. So first of all, there's an education, like in a lot of events, you go through an hour or 2 hours of general education. Here's our footprint, here's where our usage comes from, this is where our big drivers are, this is what you should be looking for, and then we go out and actually go observe the areas. It also brings up interactive discussions about employee behaviors or the way the processes are set up. So we can have those discussions as we're going out. You interview the people working on that process. Why does this run all the time? Are there better ways of doing this? What ideas do you have? You're starting to just discuss those things. A lot of people are, you're not necessarily finding brand new things that they've never seen before. Sometimes it's just you're coming at it from a different perspective, or you're bringing a different mindset to the table. There's also communication and strategy, so how do we get the other people who aren't in the event involved? And then when we come up with a plan as a result of that event, how are we going to share that with people who are involved or affected by any changes we're going to recommend? And then set a foundation for that culture change. So get people used to thinking about looking for those wastes. And either it can start from, I have a good understanding of lean waste, and now I'm going to add this as another thing to look for. Or maybe it's the first time they've been involved in lean at all. And that sets a good foundation to pick up other forms of waste, like weighting and transportation, over-processing, those types of things. So it doesn't matter where their background comes from. It sets that good foundation there. Yeah.
That set a foundation for culture change. I think that's really challenging, and I don't know if you have any recommendations about how to have people adapt to that change. Sometimes when you're working with different generations, especially people that are having a company for over 50 years doing the same, it's very tough. So how do you overcome it?
I think one of the things we do is actually try to bring those people into the event. If they're not involved, then you definitely will struggle. So I think some of it is the education that they're not aware of maybe the impacts it has, or how it kind of ties back to either, the kind of the what's in it for them pieces. The extra waste can lead to money that we don't have set aside for growing our business or investing in new products, which could hinder our long-term job security. So what is that, the thing that's important to them? Is it the job security? Is it the type of work they do? Is it, hopefully there's something there that really gets them, how they see that connection to what's important to them. So that's one approach, but the other one I think is bringing those people into that event. If I know there's going to be people that are going to fight some of the improvements, I want them involved. Because if they're not involved, it's easy to just say, no, I wasn't involved, that's not doable, here's all the reasons why we can't do that, and it's easier. Then they can hear other people's perspectives on it. So I think ignoring it is the wrong approach. So try to figure out how can they be part of that conversation. Another thing would be to find those other influential people who have some respect in the area and who can support it, and they can kind of be the advocate for the changes that are needed. I don't know if anyone else has some ideas about that. Difficult employees?
If you have the opportunity, sometimes you don't. Doing a site visit
what's in it for me. And each person, depending on where they're at in their life cycle, so to speak, are going to have a different view of that. Someone just starting out, they're might be a little more conscious of it because they want that long term. Someone who's a little closer to retirement is going to say, I don't care. As long as this company's going for 5 more years, I'm retiring, it doesn't matter. But if you tie it to their pension, you tie it to their retirement, tie it to something that's going to get it for them, then they take it home and say, got it, cool, I'll support this.
I tried to generate a discussion around a strategic plan, and I asked the question to, like 5 senior managers sitting around the table saying, well, where do we want to be in 5 years? And 3 said retired.
Exactly.
Good question. So the process is very similar. Again, there's a preparation activity, then there's actually conducting the event and the follow-up. Sound like Guy's presentation this morning about making a film. But we have the prep work. That's all the planning. And the way I like to think about it is the more people you have involved and the more time you're going to take up, the more time you better be spending prepping for that. So if you're going to take up a full week of someone's time and you're using 10 people, you better have everything laid out nicely, all that background figured out, everything brought to the table. If you're going to meet with somebody for an hour just to have a discussion, you don't need to do a whole lot of planning. So,
Your company, do you have a group of people specifically working in this type of event?
we have one person who's leading these events, who's coordinating it, and she works in the environment safety health group. So there's some planning around the type of format we would use and how to take our existing lean. And so we had about 3 or 4 people working on that plan. But once it rolled out, it was just, she was facilitating these events and helping with the people in the area do the prep work for it. Yeah.
So when you're prepping for these, are you pulling a lot of data, going out and saying, okay, this machine draws this much electricity over this time frame?
As much as we can, yeah.
Okay.
And most of the time, it's not much is available. And so either we try to do, if we know there's a couple of key equipment, energy hogs, or whatever term you want to use, we might try to figure out a way to get maintenance to go meter that up for an area. We do try to get at least to like the substation level, where we know it's got a control over a certain area. We'll meter that for a week or 2, just so we can look at patterns of data at a higher level. So that some information we need to bring to the table for the team that's new, that they've never seen before, but not probably the level that I'd like to have is really good detail. So, is there another question? Okay. So then there's getting the right people involved, preparing for the event. When we conduct the event, there's a kickoff training. We actually run through a couple different sessions. I'll talk about that here. And then come up with opportunities. And then follow up, we look at the action plans and the action items that come out of there. Figure out who's going to go take those, and we can work with them. Some might go to the facilities group as more of a capital thing. Some might go to the department manager. Some might go to individual employees on the team. And then communicate successes and kind of summarize what got done and share it with the rest of the people who may not have been involved. So from a prep side, that's where we look at utility bills. If it's a smaller building, what we call, I guess, a smaller building, but there's not a lot of granularity below that. We'll look for just high-level trends. And here's your historical data for the last couple of years. Here's how it's gone up and down with changes in our employee levels or our production output or something like that, whatever's an indicator. And here's some seasonal differences you'll notice. We did actually have a lot of energy audits performed that weren't really executed well. So there's a whole list of recommendations, and not many got actually implemented. So we went back and pulled those up and say, you know what, a lot of these are still valid. Let's bring those up, or at least discuss those with the team. There's a list of key equipment that everyone thought, yeah, I think this thing is a big energy user. That's something on our list to either meter up beforehand or at least spend some time in that area and talk about usage. Make sure we got the right people. Think about people who are going to be maybe opponents to it, bring them in, maybe influencers for the rest of the group, bring those people in. And then I would say, just like anything, make sure you got the right people, and if there's a critical person missing, I would push out your event so you got the right people so they're freed up. So don't want to just move forward because, hey, labs, right? So this map here was showing kind of a breakout of the area that we could meter up. So we know all the electricity for this area and for this area. So we'll just, we can't isolate it to this equipment or this one, but we can at least start to get some general discussion that says we should spend most of our time in this section because it's a lot more of the usage. So some of that's in the prep work. Then the actual event is a off-site or off-shift time. That's usually a weekend, like a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, whenever there's nobody expected to be working. That's usually the big opportunity right there. You see lots of stuff because that's the least observed time. It's kind of unique because usually in lean you're going to see where the work's being done, and this is actually you go when the work's not being done, and you're looking for waste. So, then we have a startup period, so when the first shift comes in and starts their work, do they load up all the machines, turn everything on, and then process, or do they wait till the work is needed in that area and then start the program? What do they do during breaks? What do you observe at that point? Or when you switch or either shut down for the night, or there's a break between shifts or the trade-off between the shifts. So those four main areas is where we're trying to make observations. And it's usually only about an hour or so, maybe 2 hours at the most. And so over the whole time period, you're only talking about maybe 4 to 8 hours of time. But it's, very specific time. And then you break up, you might have a group of 8 to 10 people, and you break up into different sections. And you try to bring people from different areas into these new areas so that there's a fresh set of eyes, and you're not used to seeing these things, and the waste may not be as obvious, versus someone new coming in saying, why is that pipe leaking? What's happening there? Or I hear air leaks, and they've been hearing it for years, and it just blocks out. And they never even know. Now that nobody's working, I can actually hear them too. So there's some things like that that are good to have. A mix of process and technical experts, fresh set of eyes, and even different levels of organization is good. So, but we need to have at least 4 people from that work area that need to be there. That's the sustaining part. So this part is really just a list of ideas. So we look at a couple different areas like building envelope. That's a lot of the facility stuff, the roofs, windows, the entrance doors. Lighting-wise, we look at overhead lights, task lighting, like at the office level or the workstation area. Especially lighting, like parking lots and security lights, exit signs. HVAC equipment, office areas like printers, copiers, personal fans, vending machines. Process areas, equipment, process, tasks and tools that you need. And then restrooms like sinks and hand dryers and showers and toilets and things like that. So, and you guys have this slide you can look at in a little more detail. But this gives the team some things to think about and look for. So that even if they don't have any experience doing these kind of audits, they're at least saying, all right, I'm in the, overhead area, so I'm looking at the brightness in the room. Wow, it's really dim. Okay, is it sufficient for the job? Okay, that's probably a good thing. If it's really bright, you could say maybe that's over illuminating the area. I'm going to make a note of that. Just an observation. And then we can have discussions about why is that. And then what we were doing is just making some notes into the different sections to say, this is what I observed in this area. And each person has their own sheet, and they're just making notes. And the small group is talking about what they're seeing. Then there's a follow-up the goal is to have at least 3 solid projects or improvements that are going to be implemented. And the goal is to come up with about 5,000 in savings. Which is, sometimes it's actually not that difficult, and other times it's pretty difficult. So it's just something to shoot for. There isn't any kind of, you didn't get there, that's not good enough. It's just, it gives something as a kind of a goal to think about. It kind of keeps people from getting too detailed into why is that little personal fan on when there's bigger things out there that they could really be going after. And then there's an area energy management plan. So what is the protocol for this area? When do we shut off the lights? When do we, who's responsible for shutting things off? Is there someone who's supposed to check with certain things? What's our standard that we need to adhere to? You you shut down your state workstation at the end of each shift. You do this during breaks. You don't do this over lunch. What are some rules and just some guidelines that the team can agree to have this plan in place? So there's the traditional energy audits that we normally have, where some experts come in and kind of look at the area. And I see this event format as kind of the starting point. As you do some of these low-hanging fruit opportunities, look for those first. Then once you kind of found some of the easier stuff, then you probably come in and have the more experts come in and look for, hey, we can do this, combine these together and really save some money here, or have you guys thought about what you can do here? Well, here's a couple more ideas you can think about. So that's where I think this format starts out. And again, the idea is to get them empowered to say, after this event's over, I'm going to start looking for these things week to week, hopefully not just during the event and then I shut my mind off from it. Hopefully I'm learning something and I'm starting to think about it. Hey, I just noticed that the other day. We didn't even see that. But hopefully that education takes off afterwards. And that's really kind of the key here is share what they observed and saw with their coworkers. Take ownership of the solutions that come out. A lot of them are behavioral based. Some of that peer pressure that's important to say, hey, you forgot to shut your computer monitor off on the left. Oh, sorry, you're right, thanks. Versus just waiting for the manager to come in and do some kind of discipline or something, we don't want it to be reliant on somebody policing or catching somebody in that kind of stuff. Now, a lot of these are going to be non-technical and very behavioral based. And the goal is, it's not to find these capital investments, like we need to put solar panels on the roof, that will fix all this. But it's really to focus on what they can control. But there are going to be some good ideas that come out, and that goes to our facilities group for review and onto their project list. And there is from the investment standpoint, it's really just some employee time dedicated, and then if there's a little bit of overtime, if they have to come in on the weekend or in off hours, if you can work through some of those, it's very, it's maybe a day's worth of extra time. So, and here's a quick checklist. This is from the EPA. They give you some things to look for that are kind of low-hanging fruit as well. You can kind of combine that with this. There's a link down there you can click on. To summarize, energy conservation is the best, most cost-effective way to produce energy, especially in areas that haven't done a whole lot yet. The go and see format is pretty common, and there's other things you can look up out there, like I mentioned, treasure hunts and all kinds of events. So that format's there already. And then later come in with a formal energy audit after you've done some of the simple things. But share this with any of your facilities and environment safety health personnel. And I would encourage you to try to get at least one event set up. And don't try to overcomplicate the effort. Just get a lot of people together and say, hey, let's talk through what kind of waste we see in the area. The team will start to pick up pretty quickly what needs to be done, and they'll start to see some of the opportunities. So don't let the lack of a structure there slow you down and say, I don't have all the right tools and all the right forms yet. Just some simple walkthrough on a weekend, you'll find a lot of simple things. Okay, any questions about what I covered? Yeah.
We need to promote the use of very simple automatic goals and salts in the top of the time.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So one is like we have ovens and we bake out a lot of the humus seal or the coatings on our boards. So one of the things is I put the equipment, or I put my boards in at 3:05 and I leave at 3:15, and it's going to run for 4 hours. It's going to keep running until the next morning when I get in. So the timer is a perfect situation for that, where it shuts off at the 7:30 when the job is done. So definitely you want to look at what are some inexpensive controls we put in there. Anything yet?
How many of these have you done?
Yeah, I think there were about 8 events, and we tried to pick one area at different locations. locations. So I work in Cedar Rapids, which is our headquarters, but we've done some in our Melbourne, Florida site, our Richardson, Texas site. Now we've got to our New Mexico site. Now we're scheduled for our German facility in Heidelberg. One in Corville.
Starting to see the reduction.
Yeah, there's been some improvements definitely. I think some of it has been more that long-term, okay, there is some efforts going on, and getting some education there, but we really like to have the facilities kind of take over and run with it from there. It's like, okay, you got some education, you went through an event, now where's your next area for running these events? And the idea was kind of the train-the-trainer approach that Carolyn would come in and do the training, lead them through one event, and they feel comfortable kind of leading a couple of smaller events in other areas. So that's the model that kind of set up, but it's still a lot of push from the corporate ESNH to do that. But they've probably been doing that for about 2 years now. So I know they're tracking the potential opportunities they found. And that's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars of energy things that if they implemented everything. The actual savings I don't know offhand, but I think it's over $100,000. So it's definitely been. That was kind of the two-headed approach for reducing energy in the facility was kind of the top down and the bottoms up. So yeah, I don't know the exact number, sorry, but it is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah. Yes.
So you said energy conservation is kind of like that first step because it's the low-hanging fruit, especially for people that haven't really done this before, companies that haven't done that.
The biggest opportunities for savings too.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the next step beyond energy conservation that's still oriented around the employee engagement? If there was kind of like a 201 presentation.
Yeah, right. What's after this? Good question. My other presentation is going to be more like the top-down analytical approach from there. I'd say they both can be done simultaneously. But after the group's gone through this part, I think it's getting a little bit more into the data piece. So that's what we've done with one site. They kind of said we found what we think we can find. When we come in at night, things are shut off. We're maintaining that. The next question was focusing on that particular equipment, start to meter up those tools, start to really say, what does that pie chart look like for your facility? Because a lot of it's just guessing at this point still.
Are you still engaging the employees just as much in that data collection process and everything?
Depending on the data. If it's metering stuff, it might just go more to the maintenance facility people, but it depends on the solution. So it does become a little bit more technical, but maybe the approach would be how does that expand throughout the facility? So this one area did a great job. Now how can they kind of get the other groups on board with that? So they at least have the whole site that's doing it, kind of hit those like that standards are in place. But this is how we always shut these things off. It's okay to leave these things on because of business reasons. But it's all kind of across the whole site. Any other thoughts?
We have a huge opportunity on the other side. Stuff you're throwing away on a daily basis. That's one thing we've learned hard.
Solid waste?
Yeah, all
hazardous
those
waste.
waste. Yeah, that's a huge opportunity there too.
Yeah, because that one's open more out of sight.
But if you think about that's part of your carbon footprint too.
Absolutely.
You're expanding that out, and that's what we're doing on our side, is looking at that side of it. We took the opposite approach. We didn't go to the energy side first, we went to the garbage side first.
Did you guys try to roll that up into carbon footprint number, or is it just the tonnage of?
It's the cost, how much are we hauling out, and are we lowering that amount hauling out? We've made some huge tonnage work, no longer going to landfills.
Yeah, no, that's good. You can do the same, similar kind of approaches that waste audit, say this is what it's thrown away, where is this coming from, everyone, how can we do something about it? But it's again, getting them involved in the solution versus somebody coming in a change in the process and they like.
Teach them how to see it. When you see bubble wrap, that's not always a good thing, especially with the bubble wrap. By the time they're done rolling up the ball of it, it's the size of that table right
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you, everyone.